Hi, James.
Hello there. How are
Hi.
you?
Congratulations on the movie. Um,
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much.
I the cast here is absolutely incredible. I don't think I have seen an animation with such illustrious cast for a very, very long time. I mean, you're not that you've done this throughout your whole career. What was it
Mhm.
like working alongside all of those names? And did you get to work with them? Did you get to see them in the flesh at all?
Oh, well, sadly, the way that voice acting works is usually you're alone in a little padded room talking to yourself. And so I spent my time in my either in my home studio where we recorded a lot of it, and then also in a studio in Los Angeles. But no, generally speaking, for an animated feature film, you record individually and separately. And so we did. And in fact, a little fun fact, as a voice actor, they bring me in first. So I've started on this movie 6 years ago. And I actually did what we call the scratch tracks. And those are the tracks that they use to help get the animation started, to flesh the story out, and then to give markers for even for then the other actors that come in. And as you say, we have an amazing cast in this. We have a lot of Sir Ben Kingsley, Sir Kenneth Branagh, we have Sir Pierce Brosnan, we have Forrest Whitaker, we have Uma Thurman, an amazing cast of folks. And then we have some amazing voice actors in as well. Jim Cummings, who's the voice of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, and legendary voice actor Vanessa Marshall, Fred Tatasciore, myself, Mick Wingard. But so we all recorded separately, sadly. It would have been fun to record together.
Yeah. What was it about this story that made you want to do it? Because this is quite a beloved children's book, and it kind of almost makes the story of Jesus more understandable for the really young ones. What was it about you, about the story that you made you want to be part of this?
Well, it's a great question. And so I'm a person of faith and have been a Christian for, the majority of my life, and always have loved being able to have these opportunities to tell the story of Christ wherever I can in my work. And usually most of my work is in, doing Star Wars or Obi-Wan Kenobi or Fred Flintstone or Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon or other characters. So to get to be involved in the telling of the Gospels was really quite exciting for me. But also, I love the fact the way they use Dickens' story. Of course, as you said, the life of our Lord, he wrote in 1846. It wasn't published until 1934, so it was 64 years after he passed away and almost 100 years after he wrote it. And it's been one of those stories I think that is a wonderful way for parents to be able to introduce the Gospels to their children. It certainly was Dickens' goal when he wrote them. He wrote them really much intimately, for his family to learn about the Gospels. And so now we're all blessed with the ability to learn the story of Jesus through a very fun story of Dickens telling his young son Walter about the story of Christ.
You play several characters in here, and I was so excited to hear how you were doing it because it's intriguing to me to hear you go from one, especially when they're together, to hear you go from one character to another. How does that work actually when you're recording those bits?
Well, so as a voice actor, I've been kind of trained to do that, I guess, just through the years of working in hundreds of cartoons and games and shows. And so I just flip back and forth. I would have a conversation. I tell myself quite often, in fact, I have a one-man stage show called Talking to Myself that tells about my life as a voice actor because I do flip around like that. So if we would do the scenes, I would just read one character in one voice. So Matthew is one of the apostles, and his voice is more in here. And then, oh, well, Thomas is a bit of a doubter, and so he's over here. And then Philip is just pretty much my regular voice. But if there's a scene, for example, where I play Melchior, who is one of the wise men, and he brings frankincense to the baby Jesus, but before that, he's talking to King Herod, and King Herod's scribe is the one explaining to King Herod, who's voiced by Mark Hamill, by the way, a friend of mine in the world of Star Wars. And so I switch back. In fact, there's a couple of lines in the movie where the scribe is talking, and then Melchior talks to him as well. And so you'll hear me talking myself in this and switching back and forth, which is quite fun.
It's quite. Do you know what I actually really loved about this? Because sometimes face-led stories can be sometimes a little bit sort of stunted and not so fun for adults. But I
Yeah.
found this so almost comedic in parts, and it was
Oh yeah.
uplifting. And I think your voice specifically made it really into something much more exciting, especially for younger audiences. Was that important for you?
Oh, very much so. I've always loved the fact that I get to work in, most of my projects are like that, and they're for young people and teaching them a lesson or two. But this one is the greatest lesson of all, of course, the greatest story of all.
Mm.
And I agree with you completely. I love that it is a very palatable story for all ages, but also all faiths. It's not heavy-handed. It's just simply telling the story as it was, and through the eyes of this wonderful character, Walter and Dickens, and the fact that they get transported back in time there and all that. I love it because we, as the watchers of this movie, we get to kind of take part in it through their eyes. And I got to give a shout out to my friend D. Bradley Baker, who I worked with for many years in the Clone Wars, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. He was the voice of all the clones. He's actually Willa the cat. And so he does all these amazing
Oh,
little,
brilliant.
meows and purrs and reactions to Dickens, because they have quite an adversarial relationship throughout the movie. So wonderful stuff in that. But yes, I agree. I think it's very palatable for everybody to watch.
You said that, I think the first question I asked you, you said you'd been working on this for 6 years. Has it
Yep.
taken that long to make this? And what goes into it? And what is the reason behind this? I mean, I'm not talking about the animation, but the recording. Does it actually take that long to just record all of these voices?
No, well, so yes and no. Jay, the director and writer and producer of the film, he's been working on this movie for 10 years, and then it was at 4 years in is when they started introducing voice actors in, and that's when I came in to do those initial scratch tracks, and then of course. What happens is it's a lot of movies can take this long just simply because of getting the budget and getting the financing for it, getting people on board, then bringing in the other actors. So what you do is you voice some, you go away for a while, they come back in, they might say, now we're going to rework this scene and we're going to change something there, or they now have it animated. So I worked on it 6 years ago, and then for several years it went away. And then I would come back every once in a while and add a couple of things. And then just in this last year before the movie came out, we did what we call ADR, or automatic dialogue replacement, where I'm watching the movie and I'm inserting my voice in and kind of doing the lip flap and adding to it. So it's a long process for a lot of movies to do that. Usually on an animated television show, you record all vocals first, and then 6 months later they bring you in to do that ADR that I'm talking about, and then it comes out. But for a film like this and its magnitude, sometimes it takes longer just to get the financing and stuff too, and that was certainly part of the struggles with it.
Obviously, you've worked on so many things that we are all fans of, and like I think the fandom knows pretty much everything you've been in. What are your favorite genres that excite you more than others that you look forward to going back to?
That's great. I don't know if anybody's ever asked me that. Thank you. That's very cool. Well, I love comedy. I was a stand-up comic for many years. I love telling stories in that way. But I love the sci-fi world. Obviously, I'm a sucker for that, being in Star Wars and Ratchet and Clank and Final Fantasy, all these ones that I've been very blessed to work in for so many years. But and superheroes, lots of superheroes. As a kid, I was always reading my comic books. So those are probably my favorites to perform in. But I love watching some of the dramatic stories and things like this, which, I mean, again, there's a lot of fun in this, but just a regular story like that, I think is very compelling to watch and get it wrapped up in.
Yeah. Do you get to meet the fans at all? Do you go to all these Comic Cons and any kind of conference at all? And
I
what has been
do,
your
as a matter of fact.
experience? Yeah.
Yes. So I've I was born and raised in California, Santa Barbara, California, but 4 years ago moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and I live there. But right now, where I'm talking to you, I'm in Los Angeles because I was just at a Comic Con. So about every second or third weekend, my wife and I, we get on a plane and we go to a Comic Con somewhere in the world, and I get to meet the fans, interact with them, sign autographs, take pictures, and do fun voices for them. And so it is a daily part. So we were just at WonderCon. We were, of course, promoting the film, but I was also then meeting the fans and signing autographs. And and signing all their little action figures and stuff too, and hearing their stories. And it's very compelling, and it's one of the, I think, most gratifying parts of my work as a voice actor is getting to hear these stories. And it's beautiful that so many young people actually understand voice acting now, as opposed to when I was growing up. Nobody really knew what a voice actor was. So it's great that they know your characters, they know your whole resume, and they bring all the action figures and the comics and the things for you to sign. It's great fun.
Yeah. From your experience of meeting so many people at these conferences, what is the voice that you're asked to do the most when they're recording
Oh,
their small, the little videos?
well, I think without a doubt, every time somebody comes up to the table, they are hoping that I will say the famous Obi-Wan Kenobi line, which is very simply, "Hello there." And that's Sir Alec Guinness, of course, said it in A New Hope. He said, "Hello there, come here, my little friend," to R2D2. But then Ewan McGregor said it famously in Revenge of the Sith to General Grievous, and he was being very sassy, as it were. And Obi-Wan has a way of being sassy that way. And so he said, "Hello there," to his enemy, General Grievous. So the fans love that interaction. They love hearing me do the voices, switching back and forth from, you know, Johnny Test, who's 11 years old, to Obi-Wan Kenobi, to Fred Flintstone, or Heck out from How to Train Your Dragon, or Lady Sick Doc. Oh, it's Michael J. Fox. Great Scott, Marty. That's right. So they love watching me switch around and do
Oh,
all the
I love that.
voices, and yeah, so it's
Uh,
fun.
Fabulous. I don't know how it works. I mean, when this is now being released by Angel Studios, and what's they're
Mm-hmm.
putting the money towards. Did it start off that way, or did they sort of join the production after it was finalized?
That's exactly right. They joined after it was done, and so generally, what happens, I think, with a lot of films, especially like this one, for example, and I completed a film myself that I had done completely on my own. You make the movie, you get investors, and then you have to find distribution. And so Angel was the distributor of this film, and so they saw the film, they put it through their guild. They have a process where and anybody can join the guild, and then they vote. And this movie's approval rating was, I think, in the 90 percentile, which is just unheard of. And so they knew they had a movie their audience definitely wanted to take part in and see. And so it's really wonderful that they had that opportunity to do that. I'm working on several other things with Angel, one called Gabriel and the Guardians, which is a anime style show as well. It's the same process, or Butch Hartman's The Garden. So all of these shows, they go through the guild, and then the guild is all of us that would want to see it or not. And we say yes or no. And so thankfully, everybody was very excited about The King of Kings.
Have you seen any of their other titles that they've released over the last few years?
Yeah, I certainly have. And they had The Shift, I think, was one of the more recent ones, and then The Sound of Freedom. And I really loved His Only Son, which was another one they did, which was shot on a very small budget, actually out in the deserts of Los Angeles. And it tells the story of Abraham and his son Isaac. And it's a beautiful telling of the scriptures from the Old Testament and the story of Abraham. So that one was kind of a surprise hit because it was made on a very small budget and it did very well. So I love that their Angel is giving folks this opportunity to do this with films.
Yeah. Well, can I ask what you're going to be working on next, and like not specifically with Angel, but anywhere else in Hollywood? Any
Certainly.
ideas too?
I appreciate you. I appreciate you asking. Yeah, there's always tons of products or tons of things that I'm getting blessed to work on. But as I mentioned, I just completed my film. It's called Hidden Blessings. It's on Redeem TV, and it's live action. So I'm actually on camera in that one. I've been doing a lot of on camera. I've been asked to do a lot. So there's another movie coming out very soon called The American Miracle. It tells the story of God's providence on America. There's another one called Operation Bodyguard, where I play a dad in that one. I play the main character's dad. And then as far as animations and video games, there's a brand new game out called Marvel Rivals, and I play
Oh yeah, yeah.
Magneto. And so I fear Magneto. And so I'm putting on my best. Ian McKellen is Magneto. And I've been doing that for about 12 years, but that game is brand new. It's just come out. A lot
Oh,
of
you're going to
fun.
be very
And
popular soon because that game is very popular. Everyone wants to play it. Barbara
I'll
Arnold.
tell you that very quickly at the Comic Cons, we've noticed how we had to get pictures of Magneto at my table because everybody wanted Magneto. So he's a fun character too. So yeah, those are certainly the brand new ones that are coming out that I can talk about. There's as a voice actor, you work on so many things, and it takes years sometimes, as we know through our discussion. And so I always go, what can I talk about? Can I talk about it? So
Brilliant. Thank you so, so much for giving me so much time, and congratulations again on this. I really, really enjoyed it. And, like, you're brilliant as ever.
bless you so much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you